The autumn equinox moon hung fat and silver over wintermoon territory when Luna Elowen Frostveil collapsed mid-ritual. One moment she was chanting the ancient words, her voice clear as mountain water. The next, her knees buckled like a newborn fawn's. The sacred chalice slipped from her fingers, dark wine bleeding across white stone. Alpha Casimir caught her before her head struck the altar. His massive arms cradled her against his chest as 300 pack members gasped in unison. Elowen's silver-blonde hair, usually gleaming like moonlight on snow, hung limp and dull. Her porcelain skin had gone translucent, blue veins visible beneath the surface like cracks in ice. Those crystalline blue eyes that had captivated him 2 years ago now stared unfocused at nothing. Elowen. His voice cracked with a terror he'd never shown, not in war, not facing down rival alphas twice his age. Through their mate bond, he felt her slipping away like water through his fingers. Her heartbeat stuttered against his palm, strong, weak, strong, gone for 3 seconds, then fluttering back. "Get Miriam," he roared. "Get every healer in the pack, now." The sacred hall erupted into controlled chaos. Warriors sprinted in 6 directions. Casimir lowered Elowen to the altar, smoothing her hair back with trembling hands. She'd been fine this morning. They'd made love at dawn, her laugh bright as birdsong when he'd kissed the curve of her throat. She teased him about his terrible singing during their run through the eastern woods. How could she be dying now? Elder Miriam arrived within minutes, her ancient joints creaking as she climbed the altar steps. Her gnarled hands moved over Elowen's body, checking pulse points, peeling back eyelids, pressing her ear to the Luna's chest. The old woman's face grew more troubled with each passing second. "Alpha." Her voice trembled. I don't understand. Her body is rejecting itself." "Then find someone who does understand." Casimir's partial shift rippled across his shoulders, bones cracking, tendons stretching. His wolf demanded blood, demanded answers, demanded his mate be saved at any cost. Beta Marcus transformed the Great Hall into a war room within the hour. Messengers thundered out in every direction carrying the same desperate message. The Luna is dying. Any healer with knowledge, come immediately. By nightfall, they began arriving. A blood witch from the eastern marshes was first. She pricked Elowen's finger, let 3 drops fall into a crystal bowl, and watched them swirl. "Pure," she whispered, "but fading like morning mist. I've never seen blood lose its essence while the heart still beats." A mountain shaman came next, burning sacred herbs until smoke obscured the Luna's still form. He chanted in the old tongue for 30 minutes before stopping abruptly. "Her spirit is being called elsewhere. Something is tethering her to another plane." A human doctor with 40 years of experience checked vitals with strange metal instruments. His clinical detachment crumbled as he reviewed his findings. Medically, she should be dead. Her organs are failing in sequence, kidneys first, then liver, now her heart is compensating but can't sustain this. I have no explanation. A seer took one look into Elowen's dimming eyes and recoiled violently, refusing to speak. She fled the hall, and no amount of alpha command could drag words from her throat. 3 days blurred together. Day became day, marked only by Elowen's deteriorating condition. She'd walked on the first day, weak but conscious. By the second, she couldn't leave the bed. Now, on the 3rd day, her breathing was so shallow Casimir had to press his ear to her lips to confirm she still lived. He didn't sleep. Didn't eat. His Gamma, Roland, managed pack business while their alpha crumbled beside his dying mate. Beta Marcus brought reports Casimir barely heard. Borders holding, no threats, pack morale declining, questions about succession. A poisoner examined Elowen's food stores. "No toxin I know could do this, Alpha. And I know them all." A curse breaker performed divination rituals, searching for dark magic. There are no marks on her soul. No hex, no curse, no spiritual attack. This is something else. A moon priestess prayed for 3 hours straight before admitting defeat. The goddess has not turned from her. If anything, I sense her attention on your mate more than ever. But I cannot interpret what that means. 2 master herbalists worked in tandem, trying every remedy in their combined knowledge. Nothing touched the progression of Elowen's decline. Each failure carved deeper into Casimir's chest. He sat beside her in their chambers, their sanctuary now converted to a death watch. Her hand felt like ice in his grip despite the roaring fireplace. He could barely see the rise and fall of her chest. "I am the strongest alpha in 3 territories," he whispered to her unhearing ears. "I've conquered enemies who made grown wolves piss themselves. I united 5 packs through strength and strategy. I survived the Northern Wars when I was barely 20. His voice broke. "But I cannot save my own mate." He remembered their mating ceremony with painful clarity, her smile radiant as the moon above, her laugh when he fumbled the ceremonial words, the way she'd looked at him like he hung every star in the sky. 2 years. They'd had 2 perfect years. His counsel entered without knocking, a breach of protocol that showed how desperate things had become. Roland spoke carefully. "Alpha, we must discuss contingencies. The pack needs." Casimir exploded. He held his chair through the stained glass window, his partial shift overtaking him. His eyes blazed silver bright as his wolf surged to the surface. "She is not dying. Bring me every healer in this realm if you must, but find an answer." They scattered like mice before a hunting cat. Marcus returned an hour later with a proposition. "Alpha, perhaps we've been asking the wrong questions. What if this isn't natural? What if we need unconventional knowledge?" Casimir's eyes narrowed. "The prisoners. The dungeons hold more than rogues and traitors. Your father imprisoned those with forbidden knowledge. Dark magic users. Practitioners of lost arts. If anyone knows of strange afflictions, prepare them for interrogation." Casimir stood, every inch the ruthless alpha his enemies feared. "I'll extract answers by any means necessary." As he descended toward Wintermoon's dungeons for the first time in months, 19 healers had failed. Elowen had hours, maybe less. Behind him, his dying mate drew breaths that might be her last. Before him stretched darkness and desperate hope. If answers existed in hell, he would drag them out with his bare hands. Because losing her was not an option he would accept. The dungeon stairs descended into darkness that even Casimir's wolf eyes struggled to penetrate. Each step downward felt like a descent into his own desperation. Beta Marcus followed 3 paces behind, torch in hand, his discomfort palpable in the tight silence. "How long since you've been down here, Alpha?" Marcus asked. "Not since my father's funeral." The stone walls pressed close, slick with moisture. Silver-reinforced bars lined the corridor, necessary for holding wolves who could bend regular iron. "I didn't think anyone was left from his reign." They moved through the upper level systematically. Casimir's interrogations were brutal, efficient, and ultimately fruitless. A rogue wolf claimed knowledge of death curses. Casimir forced him to prove it. The wolf died choking on his own lies, black foam bubbling from his lips. A traitor noble begged for mercy, swearing he knew nothing of mysterious illnesses. Casimir believed him but left him bleeding anyway, punishment for wasting time. A mad woman pressed against her bars, shrieking about severed threads and souls torn asunder. Her ravings were incoherent, useless. Casimir's control frayed with each failure. Elowen was dying. Every second mattered. "Alpha." Marcus's voice was strange. "There's another level." Casimir froze. "I authorized no one for isolation cells." "You didn't. Your father did. Before his death." Marcus pointed to a staircase Casimir had never noticed, ancient stone steps descending into absolute blackness. "The records are incomplete." The lower level reeked of abandonment and something else, old magic, the kind that made wolves' hackles rise. Only 3 cells existed down here. The first contained a skeleton, still shackled, dead for years. The second stood empty, its door hanging crooked, dried blood streaking the walls. The third cell was occupied. Glowing glyphs covered every surface, walls, floor, ceiling, creating a cage within a cage. Suppression magic, powerful and cruel. In the center sat a man, cross-legged, chains running from his collar to 4 wall anchors. Even in the darkness, he was striking, tall and lean, sharp features carved by suffering, dark hair falling past his shoulders. His eyes absorbed the torchlight rather than reflecting it. Not brown, not black, something that shouldn't exist in nature. He didn't look up when they approached. "Prisoner." Casimir slammed his fist against the bars. "What is your name?" "Silence. I asked you a question." The bars rattled under Casimir's grip. The man's voice emerged rough from disuse, each word carefully shaped. Names have power. Mine was taken when these chains went on. Marcus found a rusted plaque bolted to the stone. He wiped away a decade of grime. Kale Nightborn. Condemned for soul theft. Something cold slithered down Casimir's spine. Soul theft. The rarest, darkest of crimes, stealing someone's very essence, leaving them an empty shell. Casimir unlocked the cell and entered despite Marcus's protest. He crossed the cramped space and grabbed Kale's collar, forcing the man's head up. My mate is dying. 20 healers have failed. You will tell me if you know anything that could help, or I will make your existence even more miserable than it already is. Kale's eyes lifted slowly. Up close, they were worse, dark as a starless night but shot through with silver flecks, like someone had shattered mirrors in deep water. Those eyes studied Casimir with unsettling intensity. Your mate. Kale's voice was soft, almost gentle. Describe her. Suspicion and desperation warred in Casimir's chest. Why? Because I might know why she's dying. Kale's chains clinked as he shifted. Describe her. Casimir's grip tightened on the collar. Silver blonde hair. Eyes like winter ice, blue so pale they're almost white. Skin like porcelain. Graceful. Strong despite her gentle nature. His voice caught. She's everything. Something shifted in Kale's expression, recognition, pain, an ancient sorrow that seemed impossible for someone who looked barely 30. Kale closed his eyes and drew a deep breath. When he spoke, his voice carried absolute certainty. Elowen. Her name is Elowen. Casimir's blood turned to ice. He slammed Kale against the wall. How do you know her name? Have you done this to her? Did you? Because she's been calling to me for 3 days. Kale's voice remained calm despite the hand crushing his windpipe. In here, even through these suppression glyphs, I can feel her dying. Casimir lifted Kale off his feet. Explain. Now. She's dying because of me. Kale choked out the words. Because of a bond that was never completed. She's my mate. I bonded with her 2 years ago. The ceremony was witnessed by 300 wolves. You bonded with her heart, Alpha. Those silver-flecked eyes held Casimir's gaze without fear. But her soul was already promised to me. 10 years ago. Casimir's wolf howled for blood, but something in Kale's tone made him pause. He released the collar, letting Kale drop. Talk. Kale rubbed his throat, speaking quickly. I met Elowen when she was 9 years old, before she came to Wintermoon. She was drowning in the Frostmere River. Current pulled her under. I dove in, pulled her out. The moment our hands touched, a soul bond snapped into place. Not a mate bond. Something older, rarer. Cosmic. Impossible. She would remember. The pack elders discovered us. A 19-year-old boy with a 9-year-old girl, bound by soul magic. Kale's laugh was bitter. They labeled me a predator. A soul thief. Said I'd stolen her essence to create the bond. They bound her memories with magic, erased me completely. Then they threw me down here with suppression glyphs to prevent me from reaching out through the bond. You're lying. But Casimir's certainty wavered. Elowen had nightmares she couldn't remember. She sometimes stared at shadows like searching for something lost. Their bond, despite its strength, always felt incomplete, a wall he could never quite breach. Bring me something of hers, Kale said. I'll prove the bond exists. Marcus retrieved the ribbon from Casimir's pocket. Blue silk Elowen had worn in her hair yesterday morning. Casimir always carried a piece of her. Marcus handed it to Kale through the bars. The moment Kale's fingers touched the ribbon, it blazed with silver-white light, the same energy that flickered around Elowen when she used her lunar powers. The dungeon's suppression glyphs flared and cracked, unable to contain the resonance. The ribbon levitated between Kale's palms, glowing like a captive star. Undeniable proof. Casimir staggered back. What does this mean? Why is she dying now? Soul bonds don't disappear because you bury them. They are written in starlight and blood. Kale let the ribbon float back to Casimir. Elowen's soul has been reaching for mine for 10 years, unconsciously. When you mated her, it created a conflict. Her soul is being torn in 2 directions. Her body can't sustain it. She's not dying from illness, She's dying from incompletion. How do I save her? There's only one way. The bond must be completed. Cale's chains rattled as he moved to the cell door. One night, under the full moon, she and I must complete the soul-binding ritual. It will stabilize her. Casimir's wolf erupted. He slammed the cell door open, pinning Cale against the wall again. You expect me to hand my dying mate to a prisoner for a night? To watch you? I expect you to choose. Cale's voice was steady. Your pride, or her life. The silence stretched. Casimir's mind raced through options, alternatives, anything but this. But Elowen's fading breath haunted every thought. If you're lying, I will spend eternity making you suffer. If I'm lying, Cale said quietly, I'll help you do it. Casimir released him, pacing. You get one night. At the sacred grove, under guard. If she dies, you die. If you harm her, you die. If you try to escape, you die. I've been dying in this cell for 10 years, Alpha. Death doesn't frighten me. Cale's eyes held something fierce. But I won't let her die because cowards feared what they didn't understand. Marcus approached Casimir carefully. Alpha, the full moon is tonight. It's our only window. Casimir's hands shook, from rage, from fear, from the weight of this impossible choice. Prepare the ritual site. His to be transported at moonrise. Full guard detail. As Casimir turned to leave, Cale spoke softly. Alpha. You love her. I can see that. But love isn't ownership. If she survives this, you'll have to accept what she is. And what is she? Moon Shadow. A wolf bound to 2 souls by divine design. She was never meant for just one Alpha. Casimir slammed the cell door with enough force to crack the frame. He climbed the stairs 3 at a time, Marcus struggling to keep pace. Behind them, Cale Nightborn sat in darkness, waiting for the moon to rise. Moonrise painted the sacred grove in silver shadows. Ancient oak trees formed a natural cathedral around the stone altar, their branches intertwining overhead like arthritic fingers. 20 of Casimir's elite warriors positioned themselves in a defensive perimeter, arrows nocked, eyes scanning the darkness beyond the torchlight. Beta Marcus oversaw final preparations, his anxiety evident in the tight set of his shoulders. He'd argued against this for the past 3 hours. Now he simply ensured that if disaster struck, they'd be ready. Elowen arrived on a litter carried by 4 warriors, her body wrapped in white furs that made her look like a corpse prepared for burial. Casimir walked beside her, his hand gripping hers, the only warmth in her ice-cold fingers. Her breathing had deteriorated to shallow gasps, barely visible even in the torchlight. Cass. Her voice was threat-thin, the first word she'd spoken in 12 hours. What's happening? He couldn't answer. How could he explain he was giving her to another man to save her life? His throat closed around words that wouldn't come. They placed her on the stone altar, the same sacred slab where they'd performed their mating ceremony 2 years ago. The irony was a knife between Casimir's ribs. Her head lolled to one side, silver blonde hair spilling across dark stone like spilled moonlight. The warriors dragged Cale into the grove 20 minutes later. He was still shackled, wrists, ankles, collar, but something had changed. He moved with purpose, energy radiating from him despite a decade of imprisonment. The proximity to Elowen was already affecting him. His suppression glyphs glowed angry red, cracking at the edges, struggling to contain power they were never meant to hold forever. Casimir positioned himself between the altar and Cale, a wall of muscle and barely controlled rage. His wolf howled to tear the prisoner apart, to find another way, any other way. Wintermoon's inner circle had assembled despite the late hour, advisors, elite warriors, the council. Whispers rippled through them like wind through wheat. Gamma Roland pushed to the front, his expression thunderous. Alpha, this is madness. Roland's voice carried authority earned through 30 years of service. Let us end him and find another solution. There is no other solution. Casimir didn't take his eyes off Cale. I've exhausted every option. This is all we have left. Elder Miriam approached, the first healer, her ancient face creased with worry. Alpha, I must warn you. If what this prisoner says is true about moon shadows, the ritual may not work as you hope. Explain. Casimir's voice was granite. Moon shadows don't choose their bonds. The moon goddess chooses for them. If Elowen truly carries this bloodline, completing the bond may transform her. Change her fundamentally. She may not be the same Luna you mated. Casimir looked at Elowen dying on the altar, her chest barely rising, her lips turning blue. He remembered her laugh, her smile, the way she gentled his rage with a touch. The memory of who she was versus the reality of losing her entirely. I don't care if she changes. I care that she lives. Kale spoke for the first time since entering the grove. Alpha. The chains. They'll interfere with the magic. Absolutely not. The ritual requires physical contact, skin to skin. The iron will block the soul energy. Kale's voice was patient, reasonable. You can kill me after if this fails, but let me try without impediments. The argument escalated. Marcus sided with Casimir, too dangerous to unchain him. Miriam hesitantly supported Kale. The magic would need clear channels. Warriors muttered about honor and foolishness. Minutes burned away while Elowen's breathing grew shallower. Finally, Casimir made his choice. The ankle shackles stay. Everything else comes off. But 20 arrows are trained on your heart. One wrong move and you'll die so fast you won't feel it. As guards removed the collar, Kale gasped like a drowning man breaking the surface. The suppression glyphs shattered with sounds like breaking glass. His presence flooded the grove, not oppressive, but vast, otherworldly, ancient. His eyes transformed fully, black with silver stars swirling in their depths like galaxies in miniature. Veilwalker. The word rippled through the gathered wolves with superstitious dread. Elowen stirred. For the first time in days, she reacted to external stimulus. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing faint silver. She turned her head toward Kale though she'd never consciously seen him before. Her lips shaped words barely audible, I know you. Casimir's heart shattered. Kale approached slowly, hands visible, movements non-threatening. Warriors tensed, arrows tracking his chest. He knelt beside the altar, bringing himself level with Elowen's face. His hand hovered over hers, not touching yet, respecting the boundary until permitted. Elowen. His voice carried a tenderness that made Casimir want to kill him. You've been looking for me. I'm here now. The moment he spoke her name, something in Elowen broke. She convulsed, spine arching off stone, a scream tearing from her throat. The memory spell shattered like a dam bursting. Images flooded her mind, a river, drowning, hands pulling her to safety, a boy with dark eyes and impossible warmth, then pain, being torn away, screaming, men in robes chanting, her mind being scraped clean like meat from bone. She remembered everything. Tears streamed down her pale cheeks. They took you from me. They made me forget. They tried, Kale said softly. But souls don't forget, Elowen. Not really. She looked past him to Casimir, confusion and anguish warring in her expression. I don't understand what's happening. Casimir forced himself to speak past the lump in his throat. You're dying. He says he can save you. That's all that matters. Elder Miriam stepped forward, her voice carrying to every witness. Soul bonds are rare, perhaps 1 in 10,000 wolves. They occur in moments of life and death when two souls recognize each other across time. To complete the bond requires full moon, physical contact, mutual acceptance, and the exchange of soul energy. 4 moon shadows, rarer still, 1 in a million, they can sustain multiple bonds. But all must be completed or the conflict tears them apart. Kale's eyes never left Elowen's face. You must choose this. Not because you're dying, but because you want to. Consent is everything in soul magic. Elowen looked between them, Kale, the bond she didn't remember but felt in her marrow, and Casimir, the mate she'd chosen and loved with every conscious breath. If I do this, what happens to Cass? To our bond? It remains, Kale said. Moon shadows don't replace, they add. But it will change. You'll be bound to both of us. Elowen's gaze found Casimir, pleading. I don't want to hurt you. Tell me what to do. This was the moment. Casimir could stop this, could let pride win, could watch her die rather than share her. But as he looked at her, his Elowen, his Luna, his everything, the choice had already been made. He approached the altar and took her other hand. I want you to live. Whatever that looks like. Whatever you become, just live. It was the most vulnerable he'd ever been, stripped bare before his pack, his pride offered as sacrifice. Kale placed his hand over Elowen's heart. The moon's light intensified, focusing on the altar like a divine spotlight. Silver energy began to swirl around them, visible to every witness. Elowen's breathing stabilized slightly, just from proximity, the bond recognizing its other half after a decade of separation. A perimeter guard stiffened. His hand moved in a signal, something wrong. Marcus caught it, alerted Casimir with a low warning growl. But the ritual had begun. Stopping now could kill Elowen. The shadows in the forest moved wrong. A scout sprinted into the grove, gasping. Alpha. 50 wolves approaching from the east. Ashenclaw colors. Casimir's fury was incandescent. Draven. His rival had somehow learned of this moment of vulnerability. Of course he had. Spies existed everywhere, and Casimir's desperation had made him sloppy. Warriors shifted to defensive positions. Marcus grabbed Casimir's shoulder. I'll hold them. You stay with the Luna. Casimir gripped his beater's arm, a world of trust in that gesture, then nodded. Howls shattered the night, dozens of throats, closing fast. Ashenclaw warriors flooded toward the grove like a dark tide. Wintermoon's defenders shifted, forming a living wall between the altar and the enemy. The sounds of battle erupted, snarls, screams, the wet sound of claws tearing flesh. In the center of chaos, Kale and Elowen existed in a bubble of calm. The soul energy around them intensified, creating a barrier nothing could cross. Kale's voice was low, hypnotic. Focus on me, Elowen. Only me. Let the bond guide you. Her hand gripped his. Silver light poured from their joined palms, bright enough to cast shadows, ancient enough to make the very air hum with power. Casimir stood at the barrier's edge, unable to enter. The magic repelled him like opposite magnets. He watched his mate hold another man's hand while his pack fought for their lives. Completely, agonizingly powerless. The ritual energy reached a crescendo. Elowen began to glow from within, her body lifting slightly off the altar, defying gravity. Arrows flew overhead, one headed straight for Kale's exposed back. Casimir moved on instinct. He caught the arrow inches from Kale's spine, his hand closing around the shaft. Their eyes met, enemy and alpha, prisoner and mate sharer, two males bound by love for the same dying woman. The moon burned silver overhead, and in the space between death and destiny, 3 souls teetered on the edge of transformation while enemies closed in for the kill. The sacred grove had become a war zone. Casimir stood at the ritual boundary, the arrow he'd caught still gripped in his fist, while chaos raged around him. Kale and Elowen remained locked in their soul bond, oblivious to the carnage, surrounded by a cyclone of silver light that repelled everything. Arrows, wolves, even air itself seemed to bend around them. Beater Marcus fought in full wolf form, his grey fur matted with blood, some his own, most belonging to Ashenclaw warriors. He coordinated the defense with tactical precision, but the numbers were overwhelming. 50 attackers against 20 defenders. The mathematics of death. Draven hadn't sent these warriors to win. He'd sent them to test, to probe, to weaken. They targeted the ritual specifically, trying to break through to the altar with silver-tipped arrows, forbidden weapons designed to harm even during sacred ceremonies. One of Casimir's elite fell, throat torn out by 3 Ashenclaw warriors working in concert. Another was dragged screaming into the darkness beyond the torchlight. The defensive perimeter shrank with each passing minute. Inside their cocoon of power, Elowen and Kale were transforming. Ancient words in a dead language poured from Kale's lips, not learned, but remembered, pulled from genetic memory older than civilization. Elowen's body arched, suspended between agony and ecstasy. Her skin began to glow with runic patterns, moon goddess marks appearing like silver tattoos burned from within. Kale's ankle shackles superheated from the magical energy coursing through him. The iron burned into his flesh, smoke rising from the contact points, the smell of searing meat mixing with pine and blood. His face remained serene, but Casimir saw the tremor in his jaw, the white-knuckle grip he maintained on Elowen's hand. The pain must be excruciating. Elowen's transformation accelerated. Her wolf began to emerge, but wrong, beautifully, terrifyingly wrong. Her bones didn't break and reform, they reshaped like liquid silver. Her skin rippled with patterns of silver and black. Her eyes shifted between blue, silver, and violet, colors bleeding into each other like watercolors in rain. She wasn't just completing a bond. She was awakening. Kale's true nature manifested as the bond strengthened. Shadows peeled away from his body, becoming semi-solid entities that moved with predatory intelligence. He existed in two realms simultaneously, the physical grove and the spirit realm. The dead from tonight's battle appeared as translucent figures around him, their ghostly forms bearing witness to something they no longer had words to describe. His power was ancient, forbidden, wrong and right in equal measure. Veilwalker. The word carried weight that made reality shudder. A howl silenced the battle. Every wolf, friend and foe, froze at the sound. Alpha Draven entered the grove in human form, a statement of contempt. He was massive, scarred, with one milky white eye that somehow saw more than the good one. Older than Casimir by 2 decades, crueler by a lifetime. His personal guard flanked him, 7 warriors who'd never lost a fight. Casimir. Draven's voice carried casual malice. I heard rumors you were whoring out your Luna to a prisoner. I didn't believe it until I saw it with my own eyes. Casimir's partial shift rippled across his frame, bones cracking, claws extending, eyes blazing silver. But he couldn't leave the altar. Couldn't abandon Elowen and Kale at the ritual's critical moment. Leave now, Draven, and I'll let you keep your pack. Draven laughed, the sound like rocks grinding together. That woman on the altar is a moon shadow. Do you even understand what you have? What you're wasting? His good eye fixed on Elowen's glowing form with hunger that made Casimir's blood boil. I've been searching for a moon shadow for 40 years. They are the key to controlling the spirit realm, to immortality, to godhood itself. The truth crystallized with horrifying clarity. Draven didn't want to kill Elowen. He wanted to bond with her. Moon shadows could sustain multiple bonds. He planned to force one after the ritual completed, when she'd be vulnerable. When your precious ritual finishes, she'll be weak, Draven continued, circling like a predator. I'll kill the prisoner, kill you, and claim what should have been mine. With her power and my ambition, I'll become an immortal king. The pax will bow or burn. Casimir shifted fully, bones snapping, muscles reforming. His massive grey wolf form towered over most, but he remained trapped by the ritual's barrier, by his need to protect Elowen from both sides. Trapped by your own love, Draven mocked. How poetic. Marcus, bloodied and limping, placed himself between Draven and the altar. You'll have to go through me first. Draven snapped his fingers. 3 of his elite attacked Marcus simultaneously. The beater fought viciously, taking one warrior's eye and another's ear, but numbers overwhelmed skill. They dragged him down, claws and teeth tearing. The ritual reached critical mass. Elowen screamed, not in pain, but in power. Silver light exploded outward, a shockwave that threw every wolf back 20 feet. The stone altar cracked beneath her like ice under pressure. Kale's chains shattered completely, vaporized by energy too pure for iron to contain. Elowen rose. Not standing, floating, suspended a foot above the broken altar. Her hair moved in an absent wind, her eyes pure white, her skin luminous. She existed in multiple states simultaneously, human and wolf, physical and spiritual, mortal and divine. The completed bond poured between her and Kale like liquid starlight, 2 flames spiraling together but remaining distinct. Kale collapsed to his knees, his part of the ritual complete, but Elowen continued ascending. Her moon shadow awakening had truly begun. Her wolf emerged while she remained conscious in human form, an impossibility that rewrote reality. The wolf was massive, silver and black with eyes of burning white. She existed in both forms at once, superimposed, a paradox made flesh. The moon goddess mark blazed on her forehead, a crescent moon cradling twin stars. Every wolf in the grove, Wintermoon and Ashenclaw alike, felt compelled to submit. Not a request. Not a suggestion. Cosmic authority pressed down like the weight of mountains. Draven's warriors began to kneel involuntarily, their wolves recognizing something older than pack law, older than alpha dominance. Even Draven struggled against it, snarling, his body trembling with effort to remain standing. Elowen descended slowly, feet touching stone. Where she stepped, white flowers bloomed, winter roses that shouldn't exist in autumn, shouldn't exist in this climate, shouldn't exist at all. The impossible made real by her presence. She spoke, but her voice carried two tones, hers and something divine. You dare interrupt a soul binding sanctioned by the moon goddess herself. She raised one hand toward Draven's warriors. Silver light streamed out, wrapping around each of them like silk threads. They lifted off the ground, suspended, helpless. Not harmed, but utterly controlled, their bodies betraying their wills. You came to my ritual with blood and blades. Explain why I shouldn't end you. Draven's desperation showed in the wild cast of his eyes. He realized too late that he'd miscalculated, that the power before him exceeded every legend. He pulled a hidden weapon, a dagger carved from a fallen star, rare and expensive, the only metal that could harm divine beings. If I can't have you, no one will. He threw it, not at Elowen, but at Casimir. A final gambit. Her instinct would be to protect her mate, breaking her concentration, giving him an opening. Time crystallized. Casimir saw the blade coming, too fast to dodge, aimed at his heart. Elowen's hand twitched, moving to intercept. But Kale was faster. Shadows solidified into a shield, catching the star metal dagger mid-flight. Kale stood between Casimir and Draven, no longer bound, his Veilwalker power fully manifested. 3 voices, 1 word, enough. Elowen, Casimir, and Kale moved as one. The bond between them sang with perfect harmony. Casimir shifted, his massive grey wolf form enhanced by connection to Elowen's divine power. Kale's form flickered between solid and shadow, existing in multiple planes. Elowen's power wrapped around all 3 like armor forged from starlight. They converged on Draven from 3 angles: strength, otherworldly power, and divine authority. The old Alpha tried to fight, tried to match them, but it was like fighting a hurricane. Nature itself had turned against him. Casimir's jaws closed on Draven's throat, not killing, but dominating. Kale's shadows pinned his limbs. Elowen's voice carried the weight of judgment: submit, or die. Draven, pinned and bleeding, finally bared his throat. The ultimate humiliation for an Alpha. His suspended warriors witnessed their leader's defeat, their faith in his invincibility shattered like glass. Release them, Elowen commanded. The silver threads vanished. Ashenclaw warriors scrambled to collect their broken Alpha and fled into the darkness, howls of retreat echoing through the forest. Victory. But at what cost? Dawn light filtered through silk curtains, painting Elowen's chambers in shades of rose and gold. She woke slowly, awareness returning in fragments. Warmth on both sides. Steady breathing. The scent of cedar and winter storms mixed with something darker, shadows and starlight. She opened her eyes. Casimir lay on her right, still asleep, one massive arm draped across her waist. Kale occupied her left, his dark hair fallen across his face, chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. All 3 were clothed, leather pants and loose shirts, but the intimacy of their proximity was undeniable. Panic fluttered in her chest. What happened? Did we? Then memories flooded back. The ritual. The battle. The awakening. She'd died and been reborn as something the world had forgotten. The bond thrummed between them, a living thing. She could feel them even in sleep, Casimir's protective contentment, Kale's quiet wonder. Their emotions bled into hers like watercolors mixing on canvas. She slipped from between them and moved to the mirror across the room. Her reflection shocked her. The moon goddess mark was still faintly visible on her forehead, a silver tattoo that appeared and disappeared depending on the angle of light. Her silver blonde hair now had permanent streaks of black woven through it. Her eyes shifted between blue and silver as she watched, responding to her emotional state. She felt different. Stronger. More alive than she'd ever been, yet fundamentally changed from the woman who'd collapsed during the autumn ritual. Casimir stirred first, Alpha instincts pulling him from sleep. He saw her at the mirror and relief flooded his features so powerfully she felt it through the bond. You're awake. How do you feel? The question was loaded with 1,000 unspoken fears. Are you still you? Do you still love me? Did I lose you to save you? Different, she said honestly. But still me. Still yours. The movement woke Kale. He was slower to orient, blinking away a decade of dungeon-trained hypervigilance. When his eyes focused on Elowen standing in morning light, his expression was pure wonder, as if he still couldn't believe she was real. All three conscious. In one room. For the first time without crisis or death looming. The awkwardness was palpable. We need to establish rules, Casimir said, sitting up. Boundaries. Agreed. Kale ran a hand through his tangled hair. This bond doesn't erase the fact that you hate me, Alpha. I don't hate you. Casimir's voice was measured. I hate what you represent. But you saved her life. Twice. That counts for something. Stop talking about me like I'm not here. Elowen's eyes flashed silver. This is my life too. My choice. My bond. Both males fell silent, chastened. She crossed to them, sat on the bed's edge. I didn't choose this bond initially, but I'm choosing to honor it now. Both of you. She met each of their gazes in turn. But I won't be fought over like property. My chambers are neutral ground. No fighting within these walls. Understood. Understood, they said in unison, then glanced at each other, surprised by the synchronicity. The practical questions came next. Kale was still technically a prisoner, convicted of a crime now proven false. He had no rank, no property, no place in pack hierarchy. He couldn't just be the Luna's other mate. The pack would never accept it. Make him my personal guard, Elowen proposed. My sentinel. It's a legitimate rank, explains his proximity to me, gives him authority without challenging Casimir's position as Alpha. Casimir considered this, his tactical mind working through implications. Fine. But he answers to me in pack matters. I can live with that, Kale agreed. A knock at the door interrupted them. Marcus's voice filtered through. Alpha, Luna, the pack council requests an audience. Now. The three exchanged looks. Reality awaited. They dressed carefully. Elowen in Luna formal attire, silver and white gown that made her look ethereal and powerful. Casimir in Alpha regalia, dark leather and the wolf emblem of Wintermoon. Kale had nothing, so Casimir reluctantly provided clothing from his own wardrobe. The intimacy of wearing each other's scents was strange, uncomfortable, but somehow right. The bond hummed approval. They walked to the great hall together, Elowen between both males. Pack members stopped and stared. Some bowed. Others whispered. A few glared at Kale with open hostility. The bond made them move in unconscious synchronization, stopping and starting together, matching strides, breathing in rhythm. The great hall was packed. The Council of Elders sat at the high table. Gamma Roland stood as spokesman, his expression carefully neutral. Alpha, we are grateful the Luna survived. But we have concerns. He listed them methodically. Legitimacy of triad bonds, Kale's criminal record, precedent, pack stability. Other council members voiced fears about succession, about children, about whose bloodline would inherit. Elder Miriam tried to help. Triads are rare but documented in our oldest texts. The moon goddess sanctions them for great purposes. Casimir's voice carried alpha authority that brooked no argument. I will say this once. Elowen is my mate. Kale is her mate. By extension of our bond, he is pack. Anyone who challenges this challenges me directly. He showed them the triad bond marks, matching symbols that had appeared overnight on all three of their inner wrists, silver spiraling patterns that glowed faintly. The moon goddess herself witnessed and approved this bond. Who here claims authority above hers? Silence answered. Elowen stepped forward. Power radiated from her, subtle but undeniable. I understand your fears. Change is frightening. But I am still your Luna. I still protect this pack. I still honor Wintermoon traditions. She addressed the succession question directly. Any children I bear will be heirs of this pack, regardless of paternity. They will be raised by all three of us, bound by the same Luna magic that binds us. Her eyes glowed silver. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. She brought us together for a reason. Trust in her, if you cannot yet trust in us. Kale stepped forward and knelt, not before Casimir, but before the assembled pack. An important distinction. I am Kale Nightborn, last of the Shadowborn line. I was unjustly imprisoned for a bond one did not choose but will honor. I vow to protect this pack, to serve Luna Elowen, and to respect Alpha Casimir's authority. My power is yours in times of need. My loyalty, once given, is eternal. He placed his hand over his heart in the traditional oath gesture. The council voted. 7 in favor, 3 against, 2 abstaining. It passed, barely. Then it settled, Casimir declared. Kale Nightborn is recognized as Luna's sentinel and mate-bonded. Any who wish to challenge this can face me in the ring. No one stepped forward. A young warrior, emboldened by drink, shouted, "What about the stories? They say veil walkers steal souls, raise the dead. How do we know he won't curse us?" Kale's eyes flashed silver-black. He raised his hand, and spirits appeared, translucent wolves, the pack's honored dead, recognizable ancestors. Gasps of fear and awe rippled through the crowd. "I don't steal souls," Kale said quietly. "I walk between worlds and speak with those who came before. Your ancestors watch over you still. Would you call their presence a curse?" The spirits faded like morning mist. The young warrior knelt, shamed. Marcus stepped forward, still bandaged from last night's battle. "Kale saved my life. When an Ashenclaw warrior had me pinned, his shadows pulled the enemy off. He fights for us." Other warriors who'd witnessed the battle murmured agreement. Public opinion began to shift like tide changing direction. Casimir read the room and made a tactical decision. "Tonight, we feast. We celebrate Luna Elowen's survival, our victory over Ashenclaw, and the strength of Wintermoon Pack. All are welcome." The tension broke. Wolves love to feast almost as much as they love to fight. The hall erupted in cautious cheering. The 3 retreated to a private balcony overlooking the territory. Exhausted by politics and performance, they stood in silence, watching their world from above. "That was terrifying," Elowen admitted. "You were magnificent," Casimir said. "They'll come around," Kale added. "Fear fades when nothing terrible happens." Through the bond, Elowen felt their emotions toward her. Casimir's pride tinged with possessive love, Kale's all mixed with deep protectiveness. The intensity overwhelmed her. "This is going to take time," she whispered. "Learning to balance all of this." "We have time," Kale assured her. But a messenger's arrival shattered that illusion. Scouts reported Ashenclaw warriors retreating but not disbanding. Draven had survived, and humiliated alphas were deadly. "He'll come for revenge," Casimir said grimly. Kale's expression darkened. "There's more. I can feel it through the veil. Something dark is stirring. Last night's ritual sent ripples through the spirit realm. Others will have felt it." "Others?" Elowen asked. "Things that hunt moon shadows. Ancient things." The 3 stood together, hands joined, looking out at storm clouds gathering on the horizon. One battle won, but war was just beginning. 2 weeks passed in uneasy peace. Elowen trained daily in the courtyard with Kale, learning to control powers that felt like holding lightning in her bare hands. She could shift partially now, wolf ears emerging from silver-streaked hair, claws extending from delicate fingers, senses amplifying until she could hear heartbeats 100 yards away. Kale taught her to see the veil, that thin membrane between physical and spirit realms. At first, it appeared as shimmer in her peripheral vision, like heat rising from summer stone. With practice, she could focus and see through, the spirit realm overlaying reality like translucent parchment, showing echoes of the dead, whispers of what might be. Her progress was terrifyingly rapid. Power that should take years to master came to her in days. But it was unstable, emotions triggered surges she couldn't always control. The pack slowly adjusted to their new normal. Children were least afraid, fascinated by Kale's shadow puppets and Elowen's glowing eyes. Warriors who'd fought beside them in the battle became grudging allies. But a faction remained hostile, clustering around Gamma Roland, questioning every decision, seeing conspiracy in every shadow. Private moments between the triad were complicated. Elowen and Casimir attempted intimacy one evening, desperate to reclaim what they'd had before. But Kale's presence in the bond was unavoidable, not physically present, but felt like a third heartbeat in the room. It left them frustrated, disconnected, unsatisfied. Kale felt it too. He slept in the sentinel quarters, separate and isolated, feeling their attempts at intimacy through the bond like phantom touches. Marcus found him one night sitting alone, staring at nothing. "This must be torture," the beater observed. "I waited 10 years in a cell," Kale replied quietly. "I can wait as long as she needs." The emergency council meeting was called on the 15th day. Border attacks had increased, 3 skirmishes in 2 weeks. Rogue wolves, emboldened by perceived weakness, testing Wintermoon's defenses. Other packs whispered that the triad bond was unnatural, that the moon goddess had cursed them. Roland presented his evidence with bureaucratic precision. Since the bonding, our strength has been questioned. Neighboring packs call us cursed and unnatural. Strategic alliances are fraying. Elder Thaddeus, a council member who'd voted against the triad, added his poison. There's also the matter of conjugal rights. If the Luna has not consummated both bonds, are they truly complete? Perhaps the instability stems from incompletion. The question was invasive, designed to humiliate. Elowen's eyes blazed silver. Casimir slammed his fist on the table hard enough to crack the wood. The Luna's private life is not council business. Kale stood slowly, his voice calm as still water. You want to question the bond's legitimacy? Fine. Let's settle it the old way. Trial by combat. I'll fight Roland or any champion who doubts me. Roland smiled, a predator scenting blood. I accept. But I'll name a champion. He gestured to the back of the hall. Garrett. The warrior who stepped forward was a nightmare made flesh. Massive, scarred, with dead eyes that had seen too much killing. He'd fought in the Northern Wars, was undefeated in ritual combat for 7 years. This was assassination dressed as honor. This is barbaric, Elowen protested. Kale just escaped imprisonment. He's not at full strength. I accept, Kale interrupted. Tomorrow at dawn. Casimir was torn. His alpha instinct screamed to stop this, but the bond required trust. If you die, she feels it. We all do. Don't lose. That evening, Elowen trained with Kale privately, her fear a living thing in her chest. When had he become so important to her? When had the thought of losing him become unbearable? Do you remember what you felt when you were drowning? Kale asked, blocking her strike. When I pulled you out. Safety, she whispered. Like I'd found something I'd been searching for. I felt the same. His dark eyes held hers. That's why I'll win tomorrow. Because I've already lived without you. I won't do it again. The moment stretched. Then Elowen kissed him, impulsive, desperate, necessary. The bond exploded with energy. Across the compound, Casimir felt it like lightning through his veins and ran toward them, thinking something was wrong. He found them pulling apart, flushed and breathing hard. The jealousy that should have consumed him was complicated by something else. Arousal, curiosity, the bond's influence making him feel what they felt. Awkward silence. They talked honestly for the first time. About love that didn't fit traditional molds. About triad bonds requiring different rules. About ancient customs where all 3 bonded to each other, not just to the center. The implication hung heavy. Casimir and Kale might need to bond directly. Both men recoiled from the idea, deeply uncomfortable. After the combat, Elowen decided. We'll figure this out after. That night, unable to sleep, all 3 ended up in Elowen's chambers. They talked until dawn, sharing stories, building trust without physicality, bonding through words and time. Meanwhile, in hidden chambers, Roland met with a hooded figure. The combat will provide distraction. When the pack is watching, we make our move. And you're certain the chains will hold her? The voice was familiar but muffled. She's powerful but young. She doesn't know her limits yet. The hooded figure revealed himself, a veil walker like Kale, but corrupted, his eyes solid black. Draven sends his regards. And his gold. Dawn broke cold and clear. The ritual ring filled with pack members eager for blood sport. Kale entered shirtless, his lean frame covered in scars from imprisonment. Garrett entered like an avalanche, massive, brutal, confident. Casimir officiated as alpha. Elowen sat in the Luna's seat, terrified, her hands gripping the armrests until her knuckles went white. The combat began with traditional rules. No shifting, no weapons, fight until submission or death. Garrett attacked immediately with overwhelming force. Kale was faster, more tactical, but years of imprisonment had weakened him. He was thrown into a stone pillar hard enough to crack it, blood streaming from a head wound. Elowen's fear triggered her powers involuntarily. She began to glow silver, her moon shadow nature responding to her mate's danger. Casimir grabbed her hand. You can't interfere. It will dishonor him. But the bond was already flooding Kale with her power. He moved differently now, tapping into the spirit realm mid-fight, phasing between shadow and solid. Garrett's fists passed through him like smoke. Then Kale solidified behind him, striking pressure points with surgical precision. Garrett, frustrated and losing, pulled a hidden blade, breaking the rules. He lunged for Kale's heart. Kale caught the blade through his palm, blood dripping, but didn't flinch. I've suffered worse, Kale said quietly. Have you? He struck Garrett's temple with his other hand. The massive warrior fell unconscious. Victory. But Roland jumped up, pointing. He used forbidden powers. Dark magic. This combat is invalid. He used his natural abilities, Casimir countered. Just as a wolf uses fangs. The combat stands. While all eyes focused on the ring, hooded figures moved through the crowd. They grabbed Elowen from her seat, 4 of them, moving with supernatural speed. One threw a silvered net over her, specially designed to suppress moonshadow powers. The bond screamed. Casimir and Kale both felt it like knives in their chest. They sprinted toward her, but the kidnappers were impossibly fast. The corrupted Veil Walker opened a portal to the spirit realm, a shimmering tear in reality. They dragged Elowen through. She fought, screaming, but the net drained her strength. The portal snapped shut. She was gone. The bond remained but felt muffled, like she was behind thick glass, underwater, unreachable. Casimir shifted fully, feral with rage and terror. He tore apart the nearest hooded figure before anyone could stop him. The man died without revealing anything useful. Kale dropped to his knees, eyes bleeding silver from the strain of overusing his powers. I can feel where they took her. The spirit realm has pathways. I can follow. Then we go, Casimir snarled. Now. It's not that simple. The spirit realm is deadly to those untrained. You won't survive. I don't care. She's my mate. Our mate. I'm not leaving her. Marcus found correspondence in Roland's chambers, letters from Draven, promises of power in exchange for delivering Elowen. The Gamma had been feeding information for weeks, engineering this moment. Casimir grabbed Roland by the throat. The penalty for treason is death. But you'll watch me bring her back first. Then you'll die knowing you failed. He threw Roland into the dungeon, the same cell where Kale had rotted for 10 years. They prepared for the impossible. Entering the spirit realm to face nightmares made real, to retrieve their mate from enemies who understood that realm better than the physical world. Kale opened the portal. Beyond it, Wintermoon looked wrong, colors inverted, shadows moving independently, whispers and languages that predated wolves. Casimir and Kale locked eyes. 2 males who barely trusted each other, bonded only by love for the same woman. Bring me to my mate, Casimir commanded. Try to keep up, Alpha, Kale replied. They stepped through together. The portal closed behind them, sealing their fate. The spirit realm assaulted Casimir's senses the moment they emerged. Wintermoon's forest stretched before them, but fundamentally wrong. Trees twisted into impossible geometries, their bark pulsing like exposed muscle. The sky hung purple-black, streaked with colors that hurt to perceive. The ground felt spongy beneath his feet, yielding like flesh. Sound arrived before its source, echoes preceding originals, creating disorienting overlaps. Casimir's wolf was confused, overwhelmed, instincts screaming contradictions. Stay close, Kale warned, his voice steady in the chaos. Don't listen to the voices. Don't follow anything familiar. The realm uses memory as bait. Through the bond, they felt Elowen, distant, muffled, but alive. Her fear bled through like cold water in their veins. Kale used his Veil Walker abilities to track the silvery trails her kidnappers left, fading footprints in the air itself. They passed through a structure that shouldn't exist, Casimir's childhood home, perfectly recreated down to the scratches on the wooden table. Inside sat his father, looking exactly as he had the day he died, grey-bearded and stern. Casimir. The voice was perfect mimicry. You failed. Couldn't protect your mate, just like I couldn't protect our pack from the sickness that killed me. Casimir stopped, transfixed. Every instinct screamed this was real, that his father had waited here, trapped, needing him. Kale grabbed his arm, pulling hard. Not real. The spirit realm weaponizes your memories. Keep moving. They left the phantom behind, its voice fading into accusations that stabbed like knives. As they traveled, Kale explained the realm's rules in terse sentences. Time doesn't flow linearly here. Minutes can be hours. Distance is measured by emotional significance, not physical space. The dead can speak, but most are echoes, not souls. Veil walkers can shape reality here, but it costs life force. Drain yourself too much and you become part of the realm forever. Casimir was utterly dependent on Kale's expertise, and it grated against his alpha nature. But he was also seeing Kale's true power. This was his domain, where he moved with confidence that surpassed even Casimir's battlefield prowess. You navigated this alone before? Casimir asked. Since I was 12, Kale replied. The veil called to me before I understood what it meant. By the time I met Elowen, I'd spent more time here than in the physical world. It's as natural as breathing. And as dangerous. They entered a chamber that materialized from mist, Elowen's childhood bedroom, but nightmarish. Shadows of pack members circled a young version of her, maybe 7 years old, whispering cruelties, weak. Useless. Broken. Should have died with your mother. The child Elowen wept silently, trying to make herself smaller, invisible. Casimir's rage was incandescent. She endured this. The realm feeds on pain, Kale said quietly. This is what she carries inside. The fears she's never spoken aloud. The scene dissolved as they pushed forward, following the silver trail that grew stronger with each step. The trail led to a massive fortress that had no right to exist, constructed from bones and shadow steel, a material that existed only in the spirit realm. Spectral wolves guarded it, translucent and vicious, neither alive nor dead but something in between. Draven has a veil walker working for him, Kale observed. Someone powerful enough to build this here. They needed a plan. Kale could phase through walls, but Casimir couldn't. They needed a distraction. I'll draw the guards, Casimir said. You get to Elowen. That's suicide. I'm an alpha. I don't die easily. Casimir's eyes blazed silver. And the bond, if she's hurt, I'll feel it. That will guide me. Kale nodded reluctantly. Don't die. She'll never forgive me if I come back without you. Casimir charged. He shifted mid-run, his massive grey wolf form slamming into the fortress gates. The spectral wolves attacked en masse. Fighting ghosts was disorienting. They didn't bleed, didn't fall normally. But Casimir fought with alpha dominance that transcended physical laws. His roar shook the spirit realm, and even ghosts faltered before it. While Casimir created chaos, Kale phased through walls. He navigated corridors that shifted and changed, a maze designed to trap intruders. He encountered traps, illusions of Elowen begging for help, he ignored them, pits that led to nothing, he phased around them, magic circles that would bind even veil walkers, he spotted them just in time. His training from 12 years of navigating the veil kept him alive. He reached a central chamber and found her. Elowen was chained to a stone altar, deliberate cruelty, echoing the ritual site where they'd bonded. She was conscious but weak, the silvered net still draped over her, suppressing her moonshadow powers. Draven stood over her, but transformed. He'd been consuming spirit essence, trying to forcibly gain Veilwalker abilities. It had twisted him into something monstrous, eyes solid black, veins glowing beneath his skin like magma channels, claws extended permanently, his very presence warping reality around him. "Ah, the Guardian arrives," Draven said, his voice layered with inhuman harmonics. "Right on time." This was a trap. They'd wanted Kale here, in the spirit realm, where he was vulnerable despite his power. Draven planned to kill him, absorb his shadowborn essence, then force bond with Elowen while she was weak. "With your power and her bloodline, I'll become a god," Draven continued. "I'll walk both worlds, command life and death. Pax will worship me or burn." The battle erupted. Veilwalker versus corrupted alpha, reality bending around them. Walls melted, gravity reversed, time stuttered. Kale was skilled, but Draven was fueled by stolen spirit energy that made him unpredictable and overwhelming. Draven slammed Kale into the altar hard enough to crack ribs. Kale tasted blood. Elowen screamed through her net, trying to reach him, her power suppressed but her will unbroken. Casimir burst through the fortress walls, still in wolf form, covered in spectral blood and phantom wounds. He saw Kael down, Elowen chained, Draven standing victorious. He shifted to human mid-charge and tackled Draven away from the altar. Two alphas clashed with primal fury. Draven was stronger in the spirit realm, his corruption giving him advantages. But Casimir fought with desperation fueled by love. They crashed through walls, tearing chunks from each other, blood mixing with shadow steel and bone. "She is mine," Casimir roared. "She was never yours," Draven laughed. The moon goddess marked her for greatness. "You're just an obstacle." Watching her mates fight, bleed, nearly die for her, something in Elowen broke. The net suppressed her power, but not her will. She focused inward, to the core of her moon shadow nature, remembering Kael's teaching, power isn't external. It's who you are. Her eyes snapped open, blazing white. She burned through the silvered net with lunar fire that came from her soul, not her body. The chains vaporized. She rose from the altar, and the spirit realm responded. She was a moon shadow. This realm recognized her authority as much as Kael's, perhaps more. The fortress began to crumble. She extended both hands. Draven was ripped from Casimir, suspended in air by invisible force. Casimir and Kael stayed, awed and terrified by the power radiating from her. "You dragged me into your nightmare," Elowen's voice echoed with divine authority. "Now face mine." She reshaped reality around them. The fortress transformed into a courtroom, ancient, primal, cosmic. Spirits of wolves long dead appeared as witnesses. The moon court, divine judgment made manifest. They encircled Draven, weighing his soul. Every crime laid bare, murders, betrayals, stolen power, corruption of sacred magic. He screamed, trying to escape, but couldn't move against the will of the goddess channeled through Elowen. "You wanted to become a god," Elowen said, her voice terrible and beautiful. "Face one." The moon goddess's presence descended, not seen, but felt. Crushing, absolute, holy. Even Casimir and Kael fell to their knees from the weight of divinity. Draven's stolen spirit essence was torn from him violently. His corruption burned away, leaving him in his original form, but broken. His wolf was severed from his soul, the ultimate punishment for a werewolf. He collapsed, suddenly mortal, powerless, sobbing. "You will live," Elowen pronounced judgment. "As a human. Weak. Forgotten. Every day remembering what you lost. Mercy would be death. This was justice." Spirits dragged Draven away into the deep vale, where he'd wander forever alone, without his wolf, without purpose. His screams faded into eternal distance. Elowen collapsed. Casimir and Kael caught her together. They were all injured, barely standing, but together. The fortress was dissolving. They needed to leave before they were trapped. Opening a portal from inside the spirit realm required massive energy. Kael tried alone and nearly failed. "I can't, it's too much." "We'll share the burden," Casimir said. They joined hands, Elowen in the center, Casimir and Kael on either side. They channeled power through the bond. The mate marks on their wrists ignited, burning white-hot. A portal tore open, massive, stable, glowing with combined power of alpha strength, veil walker magic, and moonshadow divinity. The cost was visible, all three bled from the strain. They stumbled through together, emerging in Wintermoon's ritual ring. The pack gasped, they'd been gone 3 days, though it felt like hours. All three collapsed. Healers rushed forward. Marcus wept with relief. The pack had witnessed God's return from death itself. Dawn light filtered through the chamber windows, painting silver streaks across 3 sleeping forms. Elowen woke first, nestled between Casimir and Kael, their breathing synchronized through the bond. Even in sleep, she felt them, Casimir's protective warmth, Kael's quiet intensity. But something was different now. The bond pulsed with an incompleteness that made her chest ache. Casimir stirred, his storm-grey eyes finding hers immediately. "You feel it too." Kael's hand tightened on hers before he even opened his eyes. "The bond is stronger, but not whole." They rose together, moving to the balcony overlooking Wintermoon's territory. The pack bustled below, thriving, expanding into Ashenclaw's former lands. But on the horizon, storm clouds gathered. Marcus reported more sightings last night, Casimir said quietly. Creatures that don't belong in our realm. They're coming for you. Elowen's silver-streaked hair caught the morning breeze. For us. Whatever comes, it comes for all three. Kale's dark eyes flickered with starlight. The bond wants completion. All three connections, not just two. Silence fell. The unspoken truth hung between them. Triad bonds required unity between all three members, not just spoken hub connections. The cultural taboo was massive, but the alternative was death. Elder Miriam said there's a ritual, Elowen ventured. Tonight. Under the waxing moon. Casimir's jaw tightened. I've never. Neither have I, Kale interrupted. But this isn't about attraction, Alpha. It's about survival. Unity. The bond doesn't ask for romance between us, it asks for trust. Their eyes met, two males who'd gone from enemies to reluctant allies to something deeper. Something neither could name but both felt through the silver thread connecting them. Then we do it, Casimir decided. Tonight. The same ancient stones that had witnessed Elowen's near-death and rebirth now stood witness to something unprecedented. No guards this time. No pack members. Only Elder Miriam, holding the Book of Lunar Rites, her weathered hands trembling slightly. This hasn't been performed in 5 centuries, she whispered. 3 souls, 1 destiny. Are you certain? Elowen stepped forward, her white ritual dress glowing in the moonlight. We're certain. They formed a triangle, equidistant from each other. The moon, not full, but powerful, cast silver light across the grove. Miriam's voice rang with ancient authority. Speak your truth. Bind your souls. Complete what the goddess began. Casimir spoke first, his alpha power making the words resonate. I am Casimir Wintermoon. I claim Elowen as my mate, my Luna, my heart. I accept Kale as bond brother, protector, and equal. I pledge my strength to this triad until death claims me. Silver light erupted from his chest, flowing outward. Kale's voice followed, rough with emotion. I am Kale Nightborn, last of the Shadowborn. I claim Elowen as my soul-bound, the other half of my spirit. I accept Casimir as bond brother, alpha, and equal. I pledge my power to this triad across all realms. Shadows and starlight swirled around him, the veil responding to his words. Elowen's voice rang clear as crystal. I am Elowen Frostveil, Moonshadow and Luna. I claim both Casimir and Kale as my mates, my protectors, my loves. I bind my soul to theirs, my power to theirs, my fate to theirs. I pledge my life to this triad until the stars burn cold. Lunar fire blazed around her, illuminating the entire grove like daylight. They stepped together, meeting in the center. Hands joined, a 3-way clasp that sent shockwaves through the earth beneath them. The explosion of energy was euphoric, not painful. Every barrier burned away. Memories flooded all three simultaneously. Casimir's lonely rise to power, Kale's decade of darkness, Elowen's hidden fears and fierce hope. Complete transparency. Complete understanding. Marks appeared on their bodies, intricate silver patterns spiraling up their arms, across their shoulders, meeting at their hearts. They glowed like captured starlight. The grove responded. Trees bent toward them. Flowers bloomed impossibly in autumn chill. The air shimmered with divine presence. In the center of the maelstrom, Elowen kissed Casimir with fierce tenderness. Then she kissed Kale with equal passion. The males hesitated only a heartbeat before their foreheads touched, not romantic, but profound. Brotherhood. Unity. Trust. The bond sang. They shifted together, 3 wolves racing through the territory as one. Gray and black and silver, moving like water, thinking like one mind. Every pack member felt the completed bond wash over them like a tidal wave of strength. When they returned to human form in a moonlit clearing, exhausted but exhilarated, the marks still glowed softly on their skin. We're not 3 anymore. Elowen whispered, staring at the stars. We're 1. They woke tangled together in chambers that now belonged to all 3, the bond humming contentedly between them. Peace, finally. Then Marcus burst through the door, face pale. Alpha, Luna, Sentinel, we have a situation. Scouts report an army approaching. 500 strong, led by someone calling himself Fenris. He demands we surrender the moon shadow or he burns Wintermoon to ash. Casimir was on his feet instantly. Deadline. 3 days. Elowen stood, power radiating from her like heat from a forge. The moon shadow marks on her forehead blazed. Let him come. Kale's shadows flickered around him. And we show him why you don't threaten a completed triad. Casimir smiled, fierce and feral. We fight together. We win together. They joined hands one final time, the triad marks flaring brilliantly. Across the territory, every pack member felt it. Courage, unity, unbreakable strength. Howls rose to the moon, a declaration of war, a promise of victory. The moon shadow had risen. The triad was complete. And when dawn came, the world would learn that some bonds are forged in starlight and blood, unbreakable, eternal, and fierce enough to reshape destiny itself. The end. Ready for more? The story continues. If you want to see the epic battle with Fenris, Elowen's pregnancy revelation, and how the triad reshapes the werewolf world, drop a comment below. Like this video if you loved the completed triad bond. Subscribe for more werewolf romance and fantasy stories. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. What did you think? Should Casimir or Kale be the father of Elowen's child? Or should it remain a mystery? Tell me in the comments. Next story preview, a vampire queen. 2 human mates. 1 impossible choice. Coming next week. Bonus epilogue. 1 year later, Elowen stands on the battlements, hand resting on her swollen belly. Behind her, Casimir and Kale argue playfully about baby names. The supernatural world has changed. Other triads are forming, inspired by their success. But in the shadows beyond the territory, ancient eyes watch and wait. The child growing inside Elowen carries power beyond imagination. And everyone wants it.